Alrighty, good morning, everyone. I hope you've had a wonderful week. I call this meeting of the Medical Psilocybin Advisory Board to order. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for being here and your continued service to the board. In order to establish a quorum, we'll do a quick roll call. I, the chair, Ian Dunham here. Dan Jennings.
Here.
Chris Peskuski. Brenda Bergard.
Here.
Desba. Larry Lehman.
Here.
And Alana Dancis. So the only two I have marked absent are Desba and Alana Dancis, so that establishes a quorum for us. I will go ahead and turn over to our DOH staff for opening statement.
Hey, good morning, everybody. I just wanted to thank everybody again for being here today. My name is Dominic Zerlo, and I am the Center Director for Medical Cannabis and Psilocybin. And so just as a part of our usual welcoming, I just want to make sure that everybody does know that if you have questions about the program, you can send email to medical.psilocybin@doh.nm.gov, and also listed are our program website, as well as the advisory board website. Those both, because I know looking at them just on a screen sometimes is difficult to get to. If you Google medical psilocybin NMDOH, you'll be taken pretty much your first, the first response through a search will bring you to those pages. We do and we will continue to be posting the meeting invitation on the Medical Psilocybin webpage, and that will continue for as long as the program is continuing. In addition to that, what I just wanted to go ahead and do right now, if I may, and pardon me, I'm trying to get to that next slide, is just show the agenda, and I will turn it back on over to Ian as far as for starting the meeting itself. We do have several program staff that are here, and those include Brenda Martinez, who is our Deputy Director, Johnny Mouche, who is our Management Analyst, Selena Montoya, who is our Financial Director. We have Kathy Augiri, who is our Project Manager for IT. We have Carmen Batista, who is one of our health educators and who will also be assisting during this process. And we have Rosalie Nava, who is our Health Education Program Manager. We may have some other staff members who join. We do apologize on behalf of Jorge Gonzalez, who is our program manager for the medical psilocybin program. He had delayed attending his new employee orientation to be able to attend the meeting last week, but today he had to do it today or miss that training, and so he is attending that today. But we will be sure to update him on information as needed. So with that, I'll turn it back to you, Ian, and the agenda is up on the screen.
All right, so the agenda for today is just to adopt our bylaws, set our priorities, our committee formation, as well as hearing an update from the program. The chair would entertain a motion to adopt the agenda as proposed.
I motion to adopt the agenda. And this is Dan, I'll second that.
Perfect. With the agenda, if there are no objections, the agenda is adopted. And we can move on to our update from the program.
Thank you, Ian. So just as an update from the program is, since it's been a week since the last meeting, while there's been a lot of movement with regard to getting items set up for the board, and we're again working towards getting some of the items established, and we'll be working with the board as far as priorities, which is actually one of the agenda items today. I did want to let everybody know that if people are interested in getting updates for the program, and this will include the advisory board, we do have an e-update system, and basically the way to do that is if you navigate to the nmhealth.org page, you would then see in the upper right-hand side, it says sign up for e-news. And at that point, if you click on that, it will take you to a registration form where you can put in your information. And then you can select the different areas of interest that you may have. So for example, we do have here both medical psilocybin and medical cannabis. There's also infectious disease, family health, and several other topics. Just select the areas that you're interested in and then click sign up. The system may actually ask you to confirm you are not a robot. Please, of course, if you are not a robot, confirm that you are not one. And then you will be signed up for our e-news. And through that, we're providing updates about everything from new positions in the program to updates, the advisory board meetings, and just other information in general. So if anybody at any point would like to sign up for those, you're welcome to do so. We did have a couple of questions that were offered during the public comment, and I'd just like to address them. If there are patients who are interested in the services, while we do not have them yet at this time, because we have to get everything implemented, and that is a part of the process here with the advisory board, we will still try to do our best to help guide you into other services if you have not had them. So those individuals are welcome to reach out through the medical.psilocybin@doh.nm.gov email, and we'll do our best to help with regard to that. The other thing I wanted to bring up is there was the question about why there was the speed up of the timeline. And just to address that for everybody who's here on the meeting is what's really been happening is we've been getting a very large amount of inquiries as to when will the program start, please have the program start. And we even heard in the public comment last week that there are people who really need this and believe that this is going to be extraordinarily beneficial and life-changing for them. And so with that in mind, and with discussions with the secretary and that the secretary has had with the governor's office, it was determined that we would speed up the timeline to get the initial implementation. Now, this does not mean it's going to be a full program with every aspect determined, but it means that we will be able to, at least by next December of 26, we will be able to serve some patients. And again, it may not have all of the options, but at least to have some of the options so we can help those people who are most in need, and to do so as quickly as we can. We still are looking at everything to ensure, and with the help of the board especially, to ensure that things are being done in safe and therapeutic ways. And that is going to be our highest priority as we implement the program, to ensure safety in that therapeutic session. And so just to let people know, that is what is happening. That is what is occurring. We are, of course, going to be working very closely with the board and other advocates to ensure all of that moves forward, and especially with regard to the safety aspects of this. And with that, that is all that I have at this time. I'll turn it back on over to you, Ian.
Alrighty, so the next thing we had to go over was the adoption of the bylaws or operating procedures, whatever you wanted to call it. Dominic, do you have the bylaws to share?
Yes, give me just a moment to switch over.
Well, the proposed bylaws have been distributed and discussed previously. At this time, we do need formal board action. Is there a motion regarding the adoption of the bylaws?
This is Larry Lehman. I just had one very minor thing. The original bylaw stated that a majority could change who's the chair or the vice chair. I think I would favor it being a majority rather than a 2/3 vote. So that would be my only suggestion.
I would,
Oh.
And that's
second
obviously not meant to have any implication. I think I'm delighted, Ian, as being chair. It just seems like having majority be able to do something makes sense.
Okay. Would you like to amend the vice chair as well?
yes.
I think I would.
Okay. I'm perfectly fine with that. So if we had change it
Chris
to
has
a
his hand raised.
Oh, go on, Chris. Sorry.
Well, Ded's bot, I think, is having an issue with her link. I don't know if somebody can send her a new one.
I got it.
Okay. You, never mind. And then
Also, I did want to, actually, before we move to this item as a whole, I saw that Desba and a representative for the HCA have joined. So let me mark their attendance. Okay. So yeah, to move it with a majority, do we have a motion to adopt it as revised?
Ian, if I'm
Yeah, go for it.
Oh, if I just may, I did want to bring up one other item, and this was a request from the HCA member, Alana Dancis, and it's due to her new position and to the frequency of the meetings. HCA wants to ensure that they are going to be able to be involved, but the frequency that's going to be needed with the legislative session coming up and other duties that Alana has, she had asked if it would be possible, since the HCA is an executive board or an executive agency, if it would be okay if she had a proxy that she would provide in writing before the meeting, if that individual then could act on her behalf and HCA's behalf with regard to voting and being here, if that would be okay. And so we did add that into the bylaws specifically for that HCA position. And so I just wanted to make sure that you all knew that that was in there. And if you have any discussion about it, that you had that option to be able to talk about it. Thank you.
Personally, given that the legislation calls for a representative of the HCA to be on the board, I have no problem with another executive from that office being here at the board to represent them. But I don't know how my fellow board members feel, so I'll open the floor to the discussion.
I think it's a kind of standard procedure, especially in this kind of thing. So, let me know if I'm mistaken on that. But in this kind of situation, usually there is like a deferral to somebody else in some cases. You said it would be in writing, and so it wouldn't be like a rotating person, but it would be somebody who would be appointed.
That's correct, Dan.
Okay.
And then Ryan had a question.
Yeah, hi, my name is Keaton Ryan. I am the acting chief medical officer, so I'm assuming Alana's duties a lot of this time as we're in a position of transition. And just wanted to give a little bit of background. It would still be either myself, the acting CMO, or our deputy CMO, so still kind of meeting the same clinical roles, the same oversights and mindset. So just hopefully to add a little background as to the plan with that.
Are there any other discussion? All right. With no further discussion, we can move to, or I can entertain a motion to adopt the bylaws with those points clarified. Oh, Chris, go on.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I thought we were still discussing the HCA board member. I don't have any objection to that, but can you go to the section about meeting frequency? I don't think that allows for a lot of flexibility. And at times we may need to meet more frequently, I feel like. So if we change the advance notice to 3 days, that I think that might be a little bit, allow for a little more flexibility. And then I don't know that we actually need to put in there that we're gonna meet bi-weekly. Sometimes I feel like we might need to meet more frequently or less as things kind of ebb and flow throughout the process. Those are just some thoughts I had.
Yeah, and I actually did redact the bi-weekly. I figured once we establish the committees and rules are kind of propagating up from those committees, we can meet at the call of the chair. I did want to give at least 7 days. Everyone here has primary jobs and responsibilities, so I just wanted them to have time to prepare. But realistically, we can't meet until the committees come up and say, here's what we are going to recommend under our jurisdiction, and then we have the final say. So I did end up redacting that, so I completely agree with you, Chris.
And what about changing the meeting announcements to 3 days? That I think it might allow us to, I would recommend that we give people as much notice as we can, but at times we might need to move a little quicker, I feel like.
And Chris, just a question. You mean that would be like the minimum amount of time? So typically we would be looking at a longer period of time, but it would just be giving us that flexibility if we had to call a larger, faster meeting. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
I would be amenable then to reducing the amount of leeway to 3 days, as long as that is still compliant with the Open Meetings Act.
Can I suggest something to maybe have something there where things come up, an emergency meeting, and if those that can attend them, that those that can't attend them, it won't be held against them if it's an emergency meeting and it's a short notice.
And I see Dominic with your hand raised.
Yes, I just wanted to state that the 3 days would be fine from that standpoint, as far as with regard to publication and notification. So if the board does decide to do that, we can definitely do that aspect and just change it. That's a simple change. And then Brenda, thank you for bringing up about the emergency meeting. We could definitely draft language that would just simply say, if the board determines that an emergency meeting is needed, that we will do our absolute best to essentially to put notifications out to the public so that they can attend. And we could add that language, and you can still vote on the rest of the bylaws if that's the only language, and just vote on that particular piece at the next meeting.
Yeah, I would be amenable to both the 3 days and to add language that if we need to call an emergency meeting that we are able to. That would all work with me. Ryan?
Yeah, I would just say that I hear what you guys are saying. The shorter the amount of time, the harder it's going to be for HCA to attend. Just by the nature of our work, it's very difficult. So as long as you guys are aware of that, it's going to be hard for us to make those short meetings.
Yeah, and to piggyback off of what Dan said, we're still going to try to do the 7 days, give everyone ample time. We still need to establish a quorum, and we recognize that each of us have individual responsibilities in our life. But in the event that we need to have a little bit more wiggle room, we lowered the threshold just so that we don't end up strangling ourselves with our own bylaws. And then Chris had a question. You're muted, Chris.
I was just hoping we could go through the bylaws one more time, section by section, since these are going to have long-standing implications, so we can make sure that we're all good with it.
Yeah, if Dominic, you would be willing to read the bylaws, that would be helpful. I can also do it. You're just the one scrolling, so I figured it would be a little easier.
Absolutely, I'm more than happy to. So the first section of name and authority is the name of this advisory body is the Medical Psilocybin Advisory Board, hereafter referred to as the board. The board is established pursuant to NMSA 1978, section 26(2)(d)(8), enacted through Senate Bill 219, 2025 legislative session. The statute provides that the board is administratively attached to the New Mexico Department of Health. Secretary of the Department of Health shall appoint board members. Membership must include individuals representing or affiliated with the New Mexico Healthcare Authority, an enrolled member of an Indian tribe, nation, or pueblo located wholly or partially in New Mexico. a licensed behavioral health care service provider, a mental or behavioral health equity advocate, a veteran of the United States Armed Forces, and additional members as appointed by the Secretary. And I'll pause after each section just to see if there's any questions or concerns. So any questions or concerns? Okay. Duties of the board. As provided in statute, the board shall review and recommend to DOH medical conditions that may benefit from the medical use of psilocybin, accept and review petitions to add medical conditions to the list of qualifying conditions, recommend patient qualifications for the medical use of psilocybin, recommend formulation or preparation rules and dosage standards for psilocybin, assist DOH in establishing, monitoring, and evaluating best practices for producers and clinicians. Any questions regarding that section? Okay, I will move to the next, which is membership and voting eligibility. A member of the board is an individual who has been appointed by the Secretary and who meets the statutory criteria for membership or area of expertise. A quorum consists of a majority of appointed members in attendance, NMSA 1978, Section 26 2D 8A. A member is considered present for purposes of quorum and voting if they are physically present at the meeting site or participating through an officially announced webinar or telephonic conference. Members who miss 3 consecutive meetings may be asked to resign or may be removed by a majority vote of the appointed board members. A member may be removed by the Secretary within the Secretary's discretion in accordance with the Secretary's power of appointment. A majority vote consists of more than 50% of voting members present at a meeting in which a quorum is established. For the HCA board member, they may appoint a proxy to attend and vote in their place so long as this proxy appointment is indicated in writing to the chair in advance of the meeting. Members who are not public employees are eligible for per diem and mileage reimbursement pursuant to the Per Diem and Mileage Act. Any questions regarding the Section 3 membership and voting eligibility? Okay, and the next section, the open meetings requirement. All meetings of the board shall be open to the public. Meetings shall be announced on the DOH Medical Psilocybin Program webpage or its successor page, which is https://www.nmhealth.org/about/MPP/MPAB/. The board shall meet at least twice per year. Meetings must be announced at least 3 calendar days in advance, and the agenda must be posted on the DOH Medical Psilocybin Program website at least 1 calendar day prior to the meeting. And just as a note, this next section was the part that was brought up about the emergency clause, and I have not finished writing it as a draft, but I will in a moment. It is in the event an emergency meeting called by the chair and confirmed with the majority of the board members through email, the announcement time period is waived so long as, and it will be language such as, so long as a good faith effort is made to announce this to the public. Meetings may be held in person or virtually as stated in the public announcement. Any questions or comments regarding to this? Okay, and I did finish that language for that for section part 5 on that, but I'll move on to section 5. Selection and removal of chair and vice chair. The chair shall be elected by a simple majority of board members at a meeting with a quorum. The chair is responsible for conducting meetings. The chair may be removed from the position of chair by a majority of the board at a meeting with a quorum. A vice chair shall be elected by a simple majority at a meeting with a quorum, subject to secretary approval. And I believe we had actually stricken that part. Am I correct? Okay, I will remove that. The vice chair shall conduct meetings in the absence of the chair.
Excuse me, Dominic, Chris has a question.
Oh, yes, Chris. Oh, Chris, you're still on mute.
Sorry. I feel like we should add that back in, and I feel like the secretary should be a part of this. But that's just me.
I don't agree with that. The Medical Psilocybin Advisory Board is meant to be a quasi-independent organization, and therefore intra-organizational business, I believe, should be handled within the board.
Do you need to call for a vote for other board members' opinions?
I support the idea that of us being semi-independent and not needing to seek that change.
And from my standpoint, I'm kind of the same way. This is independent. I do believe that the secretary does have the ability to remove any of us at any time, for reason. But so therefore, there is kind of the ultimate that the secretary does hold on that.
I also agree with the independence, mainly because we already established that we all voted for the chair already. So it would kind of like take away that. We already established that with the precedent.
I agree. We need a little bit of that hierarchy there to keep it the way it needs to be.
The HCA will be in the minority here and agree with Chris on his recommendation.
So just so everybody is aware, I'm not sure who had said it. I think it was Dan, but I may be mistaken in that. But it does come down to the secretary does have the ability to appoint and remove board members at any time. So it is a little bit, extra as far as that approval, but it does also give, it is not something from the standpoint of the department that it could be either way, and that would be up to the board itself. So just to make sure everybody knows that aspect.
Dominic, just to clarify what you said. So in essence, it's kind of redundant in some ways to have that the vice chair picks, that the secretary picks the vice chair based on the fact that she already has the power to be able to boot any one of us out at that point, is kind of what you're saying?
Thank you, Despa. Yes, essentially. It's still regardless, the board would be choosing or selecting the vice chair. So it would just be with confirmation of the secretary. But that's, again, the secretary does have the ability to either appoint or remove individuals as deemed needed. Any other discussion on this, or Ian? Shall I continue reading?
Yeah, I think you can continue reading.
Okay.
If you guys want, we can take a vote on whether the secretary should affirm, but I think from our discussion, it seems like the majority of us are fine with it just being within the board. Okay. Yeah, you can go ahead and move on.
Okay, and the next item on that was the vice chair shall conduct meetings in the absence of the chair, and the vice chair may be removed from the position of vice chair by a majority of the board at a meeting with a quorum. Any other questions, concerns, or discussions about section 5?
I actually had a question.
Mhm.
So in a lot of organizations, the chair typically doesn't vote. do we still want the chair to have the ability to vote in this meeting? Or would you guys prefer their vote be removed since they are responsible for conducting the meeting and debate?
I wonder if it, on a lot of the other boards that I'm on, the chair has a vote only if there's a tie. I don't know if that would be something to consider.
I would be perfectly okay with only voting in the event of a tie. I do think it is a bit over powerful to both conduct the meeting and then you also get a say in the final decision of the board. It seems a little dicey, but I will 100% yield to the majority opinion.
I kind of feel like there's so few of us that it would be helpful to have everyone included in the vote. And I am only a part of one other organization and the chair has a vote.
Okay. And
I
I
think-
did put, oh, go ahead, Chris, sorry.
I think we're all here for a reason, so I think everybody should.
Perfect. And it does work. We have an odd number, and there's an odd number set in the statute. So, yeah, that would work.
Okay. Any other discussion regarding selection and removal of chair and vice chair? Okay. Establishment and amendment of bylaws. The board may establish or amend these bylaws by a vote of at least 2/3 of the members present at a meeting with a quorum. Any questions, comments, discussion? Okay, recommendations. Oh, Chris?
Do we want to change that to a simple majority as well, or should we leave this as 2/3?
Personally, this one I do feel should receive that supermajority just because you are kind of changing the way that the board would operate in this way. So this personal, I would just say to have that 2/3 because it is kind of a weightier decision to make there.
I can agree with that.
Any
Okay,
other?
with that, I just wanted to ask the question.
Okay.
No, we appreciate your clarification. Thank you.
On
And-
top of that, clarification, the 2/3 is essentially almost the same anyway, to some degree.
True.
With us.
Any other discussion for this section or shall I move on? Okay. Section 7, recommendations and official board actions. Only appointed members of the board who are present at a meeting can propose or vote on official actions. After the board adopts a recommendation, medical psilocybin program staff shall forward the recommendation to the secretary for consideration. And any questions with regard to this? Okay. Committees. The board may establish committees by a majority vote of the board. The board shall designate a chair for each subcommittee. Pardon me, everyone, I'm just going to clean up the language since the decision was made to call it committees. I'll just change that to committees on each of these. Committees must have specific defined tasks. Committees may be disbanded by a majority of the board, of a majority vote of the board, or upon completion of the task. Each committee must report back to the board upon completing its assigned task. Any questions with regard to this section? Chris?
Should we change this just to the majority vote of the board? Because I feel like completion of the task may become subjective.
So when I had imagined it, what I mean by upon completion of the task is We are creating committees for things like propagation rules, right? Once they finish with what their recommendations are for propagation, um, and we approve it, then they have completed their task. We no longer need to get that committee done unless we are planning on changing it, at which point we would assign a new committee. But we just wanted to make sure that we weren't creating a perpetual just list of recommendations, and then the board gets overburdened with things that maybe are outside of our scope or not within our powers to do. I definitely could see us removing it. I wouldn't have too much of an objection. I just wanted to kind of explain my reasoning behind it.
Chris, your hand is still raised. Was it just continuation or did you have another comment?
No, I'm just taking in what Ian said, and I'm not opposed to it either way. Again, I'm just asking the question.
I feel that like maybe in terms of the language, just for the sake of clarification on Chris's point, would it be something like affirming with the board completion of the task or something to that effect?
I would be fine with just striking the completion of the task, because we already said that the committee must report back to the board upon completing its task. So, I mean, if the board decides that they're done with their work, we can always just disband it um, on a later session, because we're going to have a meeting anyway to either adopt or reject the committee's recommendations.
Yeah, I guess what I'm saying is like I see the I hear what you're saying as far as like steps, it's based on steps, first this, then that, and then this happens. And I get that. I was just trying to figure out a way to make sure that that was in place, and just closing out that, it's affirming. It doesn't have to change. I just wanted to like verify that it's more like once this task is completed, then we move on to the next step. Then this is the final, disbanding and or dissolution of the committee. Procedural, I guess, is what I was trying to look for.
Yeah, and I completely agree that we want to make sure that, because the original language, you're right, doesn't say whether they think they completed the task or whether we think they completed the task. So that's why I said I would be good with just saying it's a majority vote of the board to disband, because anytime we get those committee recommendations, we're going to have a meeting to either accept or deny them. And then at that meeting, we can say, okay, this committee needs to re-meet because we can't do this. Or we can say, you know what, they did a great job. They don't need to re-meet as often, or maybe we can disband the committee as a whole, depending on the situation.
So to clarify the language, then do you feel that just what Dominic's got highlighted there could be removed, and we would be okay with having 4 read committees maybe disbanded by a majority vote of the board?
Yeah.
I see several head nods. Shall I delete that phrase? Okay. Okay. Other comments, questions, discussion regarding committees? Okay. Conflict of interest. Conflict of interest, appearances of conflict of interest shall be managed through disclosure of all organizational and professional affiliations of board members. Board members affirm that they hold no financial conflicts of interest related to psilocybin production, distribution, or clinical service delivery. If a board member develops a conflict of interest, they shall notify DOH immediately and resign their position. I will pause now, but there was a question in the chat actually about this, so I'll address that at this point. It is specifically about financial conflicts of interest, which means, for example, a provider could be, and a healthcare provider specifically, or behavioral health, could be engaged in work regarding this. They just cannot be having financial gain with regard to that. So in other words, cannot have an ownership in a business or a practice that is specifically aimed towards psilocybin. Now, it can still be, and an individual could still have financial ownership in a practice, for example, that is doing other psychotherapy, doing other psychedelic treatments, just specifically not psilocybin treatments that are regulated through this program. And again, that would include things such as somebody having part ownership in a cultivation or production facility, and so forth on that. So hopefully that clarifies that point.
I just want to clarify something because I am the president of DCRIM for Psychedelics of New Mexico, and I just wanted to, it's nonprofit. So I just wanted to have, some transparency there. But I have no financial interest, interest in the organization. I just run it as need be to give information to the community and provide resources out there that's presently existing here in New Mexico.
And thank you, Brenda, for stating that, because that is the perfect example of exactly this that we're talking about. You are doing and providing services in this field, in this area, have that knowledge, that expertise, have that understanding of the communities involved, but do not have that financial interest. And that specifically is the issue of that financial issue, or that financial conflict being a problem. And you do not have that because you don't have that financial issue. So that is exactly it. And you're declaring it, which is the first part on here. And so again, I just hope that helps clear up this concern and this question. And in fact, for anybody who is interested that is listening in, we do welcome healthcare providers who are interested in this and engaging, again, as long as they do not have that financial interest in this. And as we do have 2 other board positions that are open that we're seeking individuals to fill, this is a reminder to everyone that you can actually find the application and what the process is on the program website. And we are continuing to accept applications until we do have all board positions filled. Sorry, I have to give that plug when I have the ability. We want to cast a wide net. Anyway, back to the section about conflict of interest for the bylaws. Any additional questions, concerns? No, that is the end of the bylaws. So, I'm sorry, Chris.
Should there be a mechanism in here for us to remove someone if there is a perceived or a question about this? Ethics can get very subjective sometimes, I think, and if somebody is not willing to immediately resign their position, and I would assume that we'd be relying on the secretary to remove somebody at that point without language stating otherwise, right?
That is correct, Chris, and you actually don't need that specifically in the bylaws for that very reason. The conflict of interest form that all applicants do sign does state that if a conflict does occur, that not only will you resign, but also, or that a board member would resign, but also that the secretary has the ability to remove the individual, which they have already. So that would be the case. From my stance, I don't feel that it's necessary at that point to add in a separate area, because that would be something where the program and the secretary would act at that point once it was raised up. Desba.
Question about going back to the committees. Should there be language in there that clarifies how the committees will be formed, how many, or just kind of where we're creating these committees from? And also, I think, I'm sorry I was late earlier. And then also, were we going to have chairs for these committees or anything like that? Does that need to be established in the bylaws, or is that just something that we're going to deal with otherwise?
So I believe I can answer this. So the board designates a board member to serve as the chair, as the non-partial regulator of the committee's group. But we know as a department and as well as a board that the community has so much more information than any of our 7 minds can have alone. So what we're planning on doing is opening those committees up to the expertise of the community, having a board member oversee that committee, and then those recommendations would get propagated up to the board, and then we would have final say. So they would each have a chair for them that's established in the bylaws, and we have a specific document later in this meeting that will talk about the specific committee structure, committees that we are going to create, and at that time we can decide for chairs of those committees.
Okay. Yeah, I just wasn't sure if it needed to be in this specific, how that was going to be formed, but okay. Thanks.
Okay, any other questions or concerns? Or discussion? Okay, I hand it back. Oh, sorry, Chris.
I just keep stepping on you today, Dominic. I'm sorry.
Anytime, Chris.
I just wanted to say I appreciate you all for taking the time to slow down and go through this with me. I feel like we're moving too fast in a lot of ways, and so I'm very grateful for just taking things slowly and being intentional about this process.
Yeah, and if I may also, I appreciate you asking those kind of questions and really digging into it, because it's something really important to get everybody on this consensus. So thank you, Chris, for doing it. You don't slow it down. You don't, bring anything up that's not on people's minds. So thanks for doing that.
Yeah, and even I may have drafted these, but I am fully ready for you guys to tear it apart, put whatever you think is best in there, and make the changes that your expertise got you appointed for. So I have no objection to that. Please take your time, ask all the questions. I love listening to how different minds interpret the same language. So it's never a burden on us. We appreciate your input.
So at this time, I'd like to turn it back over to you, Ian, as the chair. And since we've reviewed these bylaws fully, and it is up to you and the board as to how to proceed with either adoption or otherwise.
So the proposed bylaws have been discussed. At this time, we do need formal board action. Is there a motion regarding adoption of the bylaws?
I motion to adopt them.
Perfect. Any
I second it.
seconds? Perfect.
I
I
second.
third it, fourth it.
All right, I'm gonna call roll, and that way we can get the votes. So Dan Jennings,
I vote aye.
Chris Beskuski,
Approve.
Brenda Burgard.
Aye.
Desba,
Yes.
Larry,
Approved.
and Alana's representative.
On behalf of Alana, I approve.
The motion passes, and we can now get moving on toward board priorities. For this one, I had started typing up a draft, but I can't make the priorities for all of us. I don't know what all of our priorities were, so I would like to open the board to discussion on what our priorities should be.
If I can go first, I'd like to say I think our biggest priority should be community engagement. I disagree with Dominic. I think we should be out talking to people face to face in person even at this time of year, to get the pulse on how everybody's feeling about this in a maybe a little less formal arena than these board meetings where they're primarily just listening sessions. And I think we need to establish the committees as soon as possible.
And you can speak, Dominic.
Thank you, Ian. And Chris, we are not in disagreement on that. I was simply recommending it for these particular board meetings because we have people around in various parts of the state and travel can be difficult, as we actually saw last week. As far as the committee meetings, I actually would encourage you all to have those not just virtually, because I think that's important so people around the state can participate, but also to have them in person and to meet with people in person. That is extraordinarily important and is really a key highlight of us engaging with the community overall. So we're not actually in disagreement on that at all. Sorry if it seemed that way.
This is Larry. I wanted to mention, I think this is appropriate. There's a community engagement process involving both the program and the pilots at UNM that is having meetings with focus groups, particularly vets, first responders, women with sexual trauma, Indigenous people. If that's, I'm going to post that flyer up in the chat so people see that. It's just another way for people to get information that will be then shared publicly.
All right, so other than patient engagement, another one that I would like, community engagement, another one that I would like to place a lot of emphasis on is patient safety. I believe that is all of our priorities, is making sure that we're not causing more harm with this. Does anyone, other than community engagement, does anyone else have a priority they would like to add?
Yes,
think
I would like to add
growers-
something.
oh.
Yeah, oh, sorry. Yes, I think training for our providers and people that are non-providers is going to be essential in establishing what we need to do here with the DOH. What is that going to look like? I know you, Larry, you already have things established there at UNM, protocols and procedures, safety, qualifications for patients, dosages, and those kinds of things. But looking at what training looks like, we already have that here in New Mexico. What does that look like when other people are certified in other states that come here to practice? How do we grandfather them in? Those kinds of things. I don't want to get too much into the details here, but I want to make sure that New Mexico has what we need in order to provide for our patients and citizens, and as far as education and procedures go.
Perfect. Does anyone else have anything to add?
Just wanted to make sure cultivation was included.
Yeah, you and Dan had recommended grower production requirements. All right, so if there is no other discussion, I move to adopt community engagement, patient safety, provider training, and grower/producer requirements as the board's priorities for 2026. Oh, what did you need?
Just one question, and it might be worth just delineating. When patient safety is a broad brush, and maybe you just want to leave it that broad brush and drill down on it further. Are you talking like clinical screening characteristics? You know, if they have pretty bad CV or cardiovascular disease, they may not be a great candidate initially to start with, versus like selection of the, and please forgive me, it's my first time here if I use the wrong term, the person who's going to be sitting with them during the experience, or those two individuals. What sort of screening and training do we have to make sure that the patient is safe during that vulnerable encounter or for that vulnerable period? So just maybe defining that a little bit, maybe leave it broad here, but probably want to, patient safety can touch everything.
Yeah.
Define that.
Yeah, so these are going to be very broad priorities in general. We have more specifics when we get into that committee document that we can provide. These are just kind of our overarching what are the board's priorities for at least 2026 and what can we get done. So keeping them broad kind of helps us out a little bit because it allows us to do our work in our individualized perspectives, whether on the propagation committee, to still be considering things like, okay, let's get the community involved, let's get patient safety done, let's make sure that our grower requirements are good, let's make sure that even from the production element, that we know what we're providing our providers so that they know how to adequately create a safe and comfortable space.
Great, thank you.
Desba?
Yep. So just, I think this may or may not fall under the outreach, but I think it's also important to just realize how we would be able to um, recommend and or work with the tribes in the potential bridging of that gap. They are a sovereign entity in the state, and we have the 23 recognized federal tribes here. But I see that similar issue in the film industry of how do they also get benefit and or be able to maintain their sovereignty in establishing their care, especially since we have like the Indian hospitals that are funded through the different tribes, et cetera. It may be difficult, but I feel like we need to just kind of have, I don't want to say on the back of our minds, but have that be a part of the discussion included in the outreach of how do we maintain sovereignty at the same time be able to be a bridge in creating the pathway and the doorway for that discussion for them to have within their own tribe, sovereignty establishment. Yeah, so.
So I can definitely, we can add equity and access as one of our priorities. I do think it's very important that we listen to and take advice from the tribes. They have a lot of specific healthcare needs, and if we can address those while respecting their sovereignty and cultural heritage, I believe that that would be definitely a priority for the board. So would you be okay with calling that equity and access, or did you have a better phrase than I do?
No, I think that that's kind of like a broad term, but making sure that that stays in there as well, because it could, we are trying to look at broad. We are trying to look at how this can be taken into other states maybe will to have to deal with this. I think that New Mexico is the largest one for a lot of indigenous tribes, but we don't know what Oklahoma is going to do. We don't know what any of these other states are going to potentially do, and the work that we do, people can build on that.
Yeah, I think that's incredibly important. And given that the state of New Mexico has one of the highest populations of indigenous persons, that we have an obligation to serve our community and to learn from these cultures and how to best provide culturally competent care. All right. Any other discussion? All right, hearing none, I would entertain a motion to set community engagement, patient safety, provider training, grower requirements, and equity and access as our priorities for 2026.
I second.
All right, any objections? Without objection, the motion is passed. All right, and now we can get on to committee formation. Dominic, if you would mind pulling that up for us.
Absolutely, Ian. Give me just a moment to get it on screen. Is it showing now?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
And then would you mind reading it for us?
Absolutely. Although I have to admit, give me just a moment to take a drink. I didn't realize I was going to be doing quite as much talking today. All right. The proposed committee structure: Patient Qualification and Safety Committee, Purpose, ensure that psilocybin services in New Mexico are grounded in scientific evidence, appropriate safety standards, and clinically sound screening criteria. Responsibilities, recommend to the board the conditions or symptom clusters that may benefit from psilocybin services. Review and evaluate petitions for adding or modifying qualifying conditions or contraindications. Recommend patient safety and exclusion criteria, including medical and psychiatric red flag conditions, medication interaction concerns, stability requirements prior to facilitation. And similar to the previous document, I will pause after each particular committee proposal to see if there's questions, concerns. Okay, seeing none, I'll move to the next committee. Dosage Administration and Clinical Practice Committee, responsible for purpose, develop evidence-based, develop evidence-informed recommendations on psilocybin dosing, administration procedures, and facilitator training standards. Responsibilities, recommend dosage ranges and administration protocols appropriate for medical psilocybin use based on updated scientific literature. Recommend standards for practitioner competencies, required training and education, supervision, and scope of practice. Recommend session structure guidance, including preparation, duration, and environmental conditions and integration expectations. Analyze current clinical research and data to define clear dosage parameters, including minimum effective doses and maximum safety limits for various therapeutic or consumer applications. Identify risk factors, contraindications, and side effect profiles associated with specific dosage levels to ensure public safety and informed consent. Establish a process for the periodic review of emerging scientific literature and real-world data to adjust dosage recommendations as the field evolves. And that's the end of that committee section. So I'll pause for any discussions, comments, or concerns.
Dominic, I have a comment or question. It mentions required training and education. Would this be the committee that would be looking at like what type of training programs are acceptable? Are we doing reciprocity with other states? Would that be this committee or a different committee?
That is up to this board.
I might
believe
suggest
based
it's
on
a
the
different
current.
committee.
Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry. It's a big thing. So the training part is a big thing. So it might make sense to have it as a separate committee. Oh.
Larry, you were saying with basically people that have had previous training, like for instance in other states, could qualify for more training here?
Yeah, I think that's a question. I mean, I think that if we are trying to get a program up quickly, one of the delays in other states is establishing a training program. So if we're requiring training and people could get reciprocity from Colorado or Oregon, that may facilitate the process. But I wasn't trying to get into the weeds here. I was just trying to decide which committee would be looking at that.
Yeah, because that has also been on my mind too, and I just wanted to let you know as well, because there are a lot of people that have come to me and said, "Hey, I've been trained in other states, and it's incredibly pricey." So yes, of course, I think that should be something to look at as far as the committee goes.
Dan?
No, I see that the Dominic's already moving that. I was just going to make a recommendation if that might just be moved out so that way this particular subcommittee that you're looking at focuses only on the environment kind of a dosing, and then we separate that out in the committee. But it looks like they're already doing it. So
Perfect. Yeah, I would be amenable to that. Keenan?
Mine is on a separate topic, so if there's further discussion on that, I suggest going to that, and then I'll bring up my point of clarification.
Is anyone opposed to separating them? No? Okay, cool.
I'm curious how, I guess, binding this document is. Do we need to really get into the weeds on language and the purpose? It seems like it might be restrictive at various points unless we're really careful. But this is ultimately, these committees are just being formed for generally these reasons, and the recommendations that come out of them don't have to necessarily fall strictly within these guidelines. Is that how I'm understanding this?
Right. So what I did when making these committees was go through Senate Bill 219 and see what our specific responsibilities as the board were, and then kind of space them out to be in separate sections. I imagined that the clinical practice and dosing and administration would be together because I figured that the experts would be the same for those settings. So I had just said, okay, it's going to be providers, it's going to be clinicians, therapists, that kind of thing, setting those standards. And I figured those were the same experts I would want to set dosing. Um, so I had imagined them together. I have no objection to separating them, but that's kind of where my headspace was at. Um, it is kind of binding on the fact that the committee can't only derives power from what we say they have the power to do. Um, so that part is a little bit binding. Desba?
I just kind of wanted to go back because I think I might have missed something. In regards to another question that I saw in the chat, what is the role of the facilitator? And I know that this might be getting ahead, but to me, there is, for lack of a better way of explaining Western medicine, and then this like indigenous ancestral Eastern medicine, right? So there's these two kind of things. So it seems to me that separating them would kind of be where we could have that area between the clinicians, the medical, such as yourself as a nursing student. Then we also have the people who are not from a medical background, but have been working with the medicine for a long time and understand, certain protocols that we can share that information. Is that kind of where we're trying to hope that these committees for education and training and facilitation, medical providers can be able to have that ability to share that knowledge, and be able to have that reciprocity? Is that getting too far into the weeds, or is that kind of where I'm thinking that it sounds like we're all trying to make sure that we have the space for those types of discussions in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. So what I had envisioned, and Dominic actually scrolled down to it, was the Equity, Access, and Cultural Considerations Committee would have recommended policies that ensure culturally appropriate practices for Indigenous and Hispanic communities, as those are the two that have historically used the medicine. Um, that way they could set their own precedent for how to use it because as someone who's very, I guess, involved in Western medicine, I don't think it's right of me to speak on recommendations for Indigenous tribes or Indigenous peoples. And that's why I kind of separated them out because I was like, there can be a very religious and culturally sensitive and historical version of the program where we can work with the Indigenous tribes to provide those medicines in compliance with their culture versus a very rigid Western medical system where we're like, okay, we have different cultural expectations. We like, the doctor and the nurse and therapist, but that may not be always applicable to someone's inherent beliefs. So that's where I kind of differentiated them. But if you would like them to be together, then separating those two committees definitely allows for their voice to be louder in that the Western medicine side as well, which could be very helpful.
Yeah, I just was kind of making sure. I feel like there's definitely a place where we can all have that cross educational knowledge, because I hear it loud and clear, you know, that we're taking the spirit of the medicine, et cetera, but I understand the need for regulation, et cetera, and being able to understand quality of dosages, et cetera. So it's good to have it separate, but I also wanted just to make sure that, you know, we're, that was where my mind was, as far as like being able to co-educate each other, and that there wasn't necessarily like this huge divide in thought.
Yeah, I'm just gonna hop in here because I agree with what you're saying, Des, but I also think you should keep them in. I agree with the structure as proposed now, let me put it that way. Specifically looking at equity and access, but I think we can learn from each other, and keeping all of those in the clinical group or clinical dosage group together, I think is important. I would add to that I want to make sure, while this is a medical psilocybin work group, the true work comes after, right? In the therapy and the wraparound services that really need to make sure are provided there. So there is one line in that first committee group about integration. I just would like to make sure that it's clearly defined as a requirement, that it's not just the clinical dosing of the psilocybin, but actually the entirety of this is a multimodal service, right? It's both about the psilocybin dosage to make sure it's clinically effective, but that's what really opens up so that the therapy and the counseling and all that other work that really has to come after it is effective, right? And so that's what we're really doing. So making sure that's included. So it's not just the dosing, but also what's the standard for engagement with therapy afterwards that we would recommend as best practice. And is that group therapy, as that's individual therapy? There's models for both, I get that, but really making sure we have that included in this committee's group would be my recommendation.
So we do have that the dosage and administration will recommend session structure with guidance, preparation, duration, and environmental conditions, as well as integration expectations. So I believe it fulfills what you're asking for. But are you saying you would like that to be separate, or?
I think what I was misreading session structure as like how frequently they were going to be dosed, like every 6 months or something. So as long as it's clear that the expectation for those wraparound services are really there, I'm fine with it as is. If that's how the rest of the board reads it, I'm fine.
And then Chris?
I'm sorry, I think I forgot what my question was. I'll let you all carry on.
No worries. And then Dominic.
Yeah, I just want to clarify for everybody, as this is really just meant not as a be-all, end-all document. This is really something just saying these are the areas and topics that these committees are going to be looking at. There definitely is going to be need for crosswork between different committees and among different committees. And so one of the things that I would really recommend is that some of the individuals that are on these different committees, as they are announced and posted, which will be open to the public to be able to attend and participate, will probably end up being on or attending multiple committees. We just want to make sure that each committee really has at least an idea of these are the areas that they need to look at. And there will definitely be things that either get added in or may say, as the committees start meeting, may say, oh, this really should go to this committee rather than this one. And that's okay. This is really just an idea and a starting place as far as what committees are established. And then as they continue to progress, it can be refined as to what areas and sections and parts of rules, regulations, and recommendations that they are going to focus on. Thank you.
Yeah, and to piggyback, it's a simple majority to change, so it's not like it's set in stone. But Larry had a question or a point?
Yeah, Yeah, just one recommendation. It actually deals with what was brought up before. Where it says recommend session structure, I would change that to recommend therapeutic structure, just to be a bit more expansive on that. I agree with Dom. I mean, we don't have to get too into the granular, but I think that would be an important change in wording.
That's fine with me.
Okay. Is there additional discussion regarding this particular committee? Okay. And I did separate out the education and training and just broke that out into several points, which are recommend standards for practitioner competencies, recommend required training and education, and recommend supervision requirements and scope of practice. And again, the committees can actually add items to this. This is just the start. Any questions, concerns here? Okay, propagation committee. Purpose, ensure that New Mexico's psilocybin production aligns with safety, quality, and testing standards. Responsibilities, recommend best practices for psilocybin mushroom cultivation, harvesting, drying, storage, and contamination control standards. Recommend licensure criteria for producers, manufacturers, and laboratories. Recommend to the full board rules on production, purity, potency, labeling, and packaging standards. Monitor national and international research on product safety and testing innovations. Recommend updates as needed. Any questions or concerns? And I'll pause for a few moments.
I have a question. Again, I know we're not trying to get into the weeds and anything. This is probably where I feel like, in addition to this is like the consumer provider side, money side of things for sure. I mean, I know that there's money in the medical research, but you know, is there any need to add the financial aspect of like, I don't know. I just know this is going to be very costly just from the research I've done as far as, being able to have, like, who's going to pay for the testing and, or is it going to be able to be available and accessible for the cultivators to be able to have that, especially for if we're trying to just make it for New Mexico. I know that there's lots of testing, lots of money in different places for private corporations to do their clinical trials, but I'm thinking about the New Mexico growers and such. So I don't know if that needs to be in here, but that's just my concern.
And Desba, that actually is a part of it with regard to especially the national and international research on product safety and testing innovations. I would see that the financial aspect of that would be wrapped up in there. But again, I mean, if we need to add, I can actually just include including financial aspects.
I would, instead of doing that, I would add another point that says ensuring testing is not financially cumbersome, as in we are going to have to essentially not create, but the state market is going to have to create laboratory and other factors in order to facilitate, the market. And I want to ensure that, all of the testing that we're doing while the market is still small does not encumber on the product as a whole. And I can see where Desba is thinking of that, because especially in rural New Mexico, to have them develop and create testing centers, I don't think is a realistic possibility. So making sure that we can maintain patient safety while also not giving them unnecessary tests that would make it financially burdensome would be very good. Thank you, Desba.
So I did add on in the point saying ensuring testing recommendations are as affordable as possible while we requiring measures necessary for patient safety. Okay, additional comments, concerns, discussion regarding propagation. Okay, the next one is Equity Access and Cultural Consideration Committee. Purpose, ensure that New Mexico's medical psilocybin services system is accessible, culturally appropriate, and responsive to the needs of Indigenous, rural, frontier, Hispanic, and underserved communities, and that program implementation promotes equity, inclusion, and culturally grounded care across all settings. Responsibilities. Recommend to the board policies to expand access to rural, frontier, and underserved areas of New Mexico, including but not limited to telehealth-enabled screening and rural training. Recommend anti-discrimination and anti-stigma policies within the psilocybin services system. Recommend policies that ensure culturally appropriate practices for Indigenous and Hispanic communities. Dan?
I just wanted to ask if this might be a good place to put the access and equity because of the financial parts that it would be for as a patient that is not covered under insurance at the moment, of course, and who knows in the future, but the fact that we want to make sure that this is accessible to people financially. I don't know if that makes sense to put it into this, but also accessible for prioritizing New Mexicans specifically. I don't know if this is something to bring up on this committee or not, but I just wanted to ask.
So what I went ahead and I just added in, please, just sort of as general, is determine qualifications and determinations for eligibility of financial assistance through the Patient Equity Fund. I think that sort of addresses it, although I may slightly change the language so I don't say determination twice.
Thank you for that. Okay. Any other discussion for this area? Okay, moving on to the End of Life Care Committee. Purpose, ensure that psilocybin services for individuals experience serious illness, life-limiting conditions, or end-of-life distress are delivered safely, ethically, and in accordance with best practices in palliative care, supportive care, and trauma-informed approaches. This committee will support the development of guidelines that promote dignity, comfort, cultural respect, and evidence-informed care for patients receiving psilocybin during advanced illness and end-of-life transitions. Responsibilities. Recommend clinical and ethical guidance for psilocybin use in individuals experiencing serious illness or end-of-life distress. Recommend safety criteria, screening considerations, and interdisciplinary coordination practices to end-of-life care, including collaboration with palliative care providers, hospice agencies, behavioral health clinicians, and spiritual or cultural support. Recommend informed consent requirements, advanced care planning, and communication standards for patients and families receiving end-of-life psilocybin services. Recommend culturally appropriate trauma-informed and dignity-centered care guidelines for end-of-life psilocybin services. Any questions, concerns, discussion? No? Okay, I see lots of head nods of no for additional discussion. So the next committee is the Research and Continuous Improvement Committee.
Ensure that practitioner preparation, research activities, harm reduction practices, and program evaluation for medical psilocybin services in New Mexico are grounded in scientific evidence, ethical standards, and continuous quality improvement principles. Recommend guidelines for research and data collection, including core data elements to be collected by practitioners and DOH, outcome monitoring and adverse event reporting standards, ethical research practices, including considerations for tribal and culturally specific communities, evaluation frameworks for monitoring safety, clinical outcomes, and population level trends. Recommend harm reduction and quality improvement practices, including risk screening frameworks and medication interaction guidance, emergency preparedness and crisis response expectations, informed consent content, and patient education materials, mechanisms for updating clinical, training, and safety standards as new evidence emerges. And that's the end of that particular committee portion. Any questions, comments, or discussion? Okay, so that's actually the end of this document. And so I'll just very quickly go through the specific committee names. So they are Patient Qualification and Safety Committee, Dosage Administration and Clinical Practice Committee, Education and Training Committee, Propagation Committee, Equity, Access, and Cultural Considerations Committee, End of Life Care Committee, and Research and Continuous Improvement Committee. So as a total, that's 7 committees.
Perfect.
Which actually,
yeah. Oh, sorry, go on.
Sorry. No, I was going to say that's actually perfect since there are 7 board members.
And then Larry had a question.
Yeah, I mean, more of an addendum, maybe. Now that we have these set up, is there something that we can let people know in the public that they can do to apply to be on committees?
Ian,
Once we vote on it. Oh, yeah, go on it.
Larry, what we've recommended from the department, and again, this will be up to the board to make a determination, is we're recommending that what we would do is once the committees and the chair is determined, that at that point, and a date set for the initial committee meeting, that the chair from the board, or whomever is appointed as chair, let us know at the program level. We will post it and send it out through our constant contact, so through the e-update, for individuals who are interested in attending and participating to attend. And then that way it would be open to anybody who has interest and be able to help provide expertise. And that's just what we're recommending at that point. And that way individuals would be able to find out about it. It would be posted both on our website and through the e-updates, the electronic updates.
Perfect, thank you. And then Desba?
I did see a comment on there about enforcement, and any of these in particular ones for the regulations of growing and or facilitation. Is there anything in there that needs to be about enforcing these? Or does that come later when in the committees?
We set up a mechanism for licensure, and that would be the enforcement mechanism for the psilocybin program. But other than that, if you wanted to create something more, I believe it'd have to come from the Department of Health. But Dominic, you can correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes, enforcement with regard to the program itself would be a part of the compliance aspect of the program. And for example, one of the staff positions that we are looking at hiring is a compliance officer. And so they would be able to help in formulating some of those areas as far as from a regulatory standpoint as we start moving forward in that section.
So that just to clarify for the sake of education, so that part of the enforcement would come after the formation of these committees and then being able to enforce it. Well, I mean, after everything is done and we're starting to go up into establishing these things, they're up and running, that's when that would be. implemented?
The different areas are going to have different aspects with regard to enforcement for what are the regulations that are recommended and then put into place. So, so that will be a part of the regulation formation, and there'll be parts of it probably in different aspects of several of the committees. For example, in the licensure and the training and education requirements, again, with regard to propagation, for cultivation testing. And so those will be incorporated into, or will need to be incorporated into the recommendations from those different committees and other committees as well, just using those as examples.
Got it. Awesome. Thank you.
Perfect. And then Chris?
I'd like to also recommend a veteran and first responders specific committee to look at the specific needs of that community.
Any objections? No, then we can go ahead and add it.
Where would you like that added? I'm sorry.
Oh, so Chris, let me ask you that. Would you rather create an entire separate committee, or would you rather add like a veteran specificity under the Equity and Access Committee?
I think I would rather have a specific committee for that population, and then we can see what kind of comes out of it. I haven't fully
If you want to create a committee, what we can do is we can adopt these 6, and then it only requires a majority vote to do the Veterans Committee specifically. That way you can add the specific language that you want in it.
all right, I'll work with some people and add that language to a proposal for our next meeting.
Perfect. Thank you. Larry?
Yeah, and this may be a conversation Chris and I can have. I think the veterans and the first responders is going to have a major focus on PTSD, and so we might kind of figure out, is that like is PTSD in a separate committee, or just try to look at that as you're making the plan for that committee. It would seem like it would be key for the PTSD diagnosis.
And then Desba?
I just kind of wanted to clarify a little with what Chris was recommending. In that case, what I'm envisioning and how I interpreted was, even, police officers, not just them, but which has been a big issue with figuring out how they respond to the public who are having mental health crisis. So I'm not sure that's how I read it from what Chris's perspective is. How this could be a way to bridge that gap, as a way to move that also forward to having more understanding of the community that the first responders are serving.
I'll keep that in mind as I'm coming up with the language, and maybe we can use that committee as kind of a bridge between those worlds, both to look at veteran specific needs, or veteran and first responder specific needs with the use of the medicine, and how we can incorporate training with local law enforcement and response agencies.
Alrighty. If there is no more discussion, I would entertain a motion to adopt the 7 committees as provided. Is there any objections?
I'll make a motion to approve these 7.
Perfect.
Second.
Perfect. Any objections? With unanimous consent, the committees are formed. Um, we also need to designate a board member to serve as chair for each committee. Um, does anyone want to do, we'll go ahead and do them in order. Does anyone want to be chair of the Patient Qualification and Safety Committee? All right. We can do nominations for that one another time. How about dosage administration and clinical practice? The Education and Training Committee?
I would not oppose. Is there somebody else that wants? Go ahead.
I'm not used to raising my hand. Yeah, I think I would like to be part of the Education and Training Committee. I have another question too. Maybe two board members could possibly maybe be on both or two committees. Would that be possible?
Yeah. You could be, right now there's 7 committees and there are 7 of us, so I was thinking each of us could chair a committee, but I have no objection to serving on more than one. Especially because Chris is going to permit another committee at the next meeting, which means we may need a double chair, so I would have no objection to that.
Okay.
All right, so Brenda for the education and training. How about for propagation?
I would like to chair the propagation board.
Okay. Equity, access, and cultural considerations. Despa?
Me.
I know Larry had recommended the end of life committee. Would you like to chair that one?
I would.
And then Dan, you had recommended the research and continuous improvement committee. Would you like to chair that one?
Yes, please. That would be great.
All right, and then I can do patient safety and qualification. Patient qualification and safety. That was the first one we did. And then we would still need one for the dosage, administration, and clinical practice. Which, if we can't come up with that this time, we can delay appointing the chair until the next meeting.
This is Larry. I'm happy to help because this is kind of my day job a little bit. But I'd maybe rather not be the chair of like both committees, but I'd be happy to help if somebody else would volunteer to eventually chair it.
Yeah, I can actually volunteer to chair patient qualification and safety. All right. And then dosage administration and clinical practice is the last one.
Would like to be part of that, but I too don't want to chair, but I'd like to offer my my services if I can to anybody who wants to chair that.
For that one, it doesn't look like we have a nominee. So we can just push that one as being the only board we need to still nominate someone for at the next meeting. All right, is there any other business that the board members would like to bring forward? Mr. Zerlo?
Thank you, Ian. I just want to double check to make sure that I have everything correct here. So I have for Patient Qualification and Safety Committee, yourself, Ian. Dosage and Administration is to be determined. Education and Training, Brenda Burghardt, Chair. Propagation Committee is Chris. Whoops, sorry, Chris, I misspelled your name. My apologies, Mr. E. And then equity, access, and cultural considerations, Desba. And Desba, I'm sorry, how would you like your last name listed on here?
If I just usually just go by Desba, but if we need to be legal, I
Nope.
have.
We can leave it as that. I just wanted to make
Okay.
sure to acknowledge it.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. End of Life Care Committee is Larry Lehman. And then Research and Continuous Improvement Committee, Dan Jennings. Is that correct? Did I miss anything? Okay, I just wanted to make sure I had that correct before we move forward. And just to note in the chat, some people have asked about the documents. Yes, all the documents, and it usually can take a few days to a week or so for us to get them up onto our website, but they will be placed onto the advisory board website. If you go to the advisory board website, on the left side, there's several different subsections. One of those is the meeting records, and we will be putting it into those areas. But please do give us a little bit of time to work with our IT department to get those posted. Thank you.
All right. Is there any other business for the board to attend to that anyone would like to bring forward? No? All righty. Then we just need to select our next meeting date and location. So we can meet before the legislative session if you guys would like, or we can defer to let's see, hold on. Let me look at the dates. My calendar isn't loading. So if we wanted to keep it before the session, we could do the 9th of January at 9 a.m. again, if you guys would like, or if you have another suggestion. Chris?
I have a conflict with that day. I'm not sure a different day might work that week.
Yeah. We could do the Thursday of that week. We could do the week after. It's really
I could do either that. I could either do the Friday the 16th or Thursday the 15th. Do people want to keep Fridays? Would Friday the 16th be more consistent with schedules? Or?
Are you available
yeah.
on the 8th, Larry?
I am after 9 o'clock.
All right, the 8th works for me.
So do you guys want to do January 8th at 10?
I don't think I can make it. I would rather stick with the Friday on the 12th at 9.
The
Monday the 12th?
Do the 12th.
Friday the
Yes.
16th?
Are you looking at the following year? The next Friday after the 9th is the 16th.
And Brenda, I think you were talking and you're on mute.
The 16th would be fine at 9 o'clock for me. During the week is kind of hard.
So does the 16th at 9 work for everyone?
16th at 9 works for me.
Okay. Desba, Jan,
We're good.
Larry. All right. And Brenda? Good. Perfect. Do you know if Lana is going to be available?
Don't know. That's the last day before session starts, so we might already be in bill analysis mode because bills are actually
Filed on the 2nd.
Right, so we're gonna start reviewing stuff. So it's hard to say. I'll just be honest. As we get close to session, I can follow up with her at 9 or the date of 9. I'm sorry, 9 on
Yeah,
the
at
16th,
9.
correct? Yeah,
Yeah.
so let me follow up with her, and I can report back. I just can't commit to anything right now.
All right. And then Chris, you had a question?
Yeah. How do we start setting up committee meetings? Is there a formal process for that, or feels like we have a lot of time in between our next board meeting and we could do some community engagement in between.
Yeah, I think Dom has a better answer than I do.
Thank you, Ian. And Chris, that's a great question. I had kind of mentioned that once as a chair, you set your date and time. If you want to do it virtually, let us know and we'll set up that meeting. If you want to do it in person, we can also help with arrangements as far as that goes. So once the chair sets that, if they get that to us here at the department, we will then go ahead and get it set up and send out that announcement both on our website and also through the e-update, so that individuals would be able to attend.
And hopping on to that same question, with the chairs and setting up the meetings, would we then now, since there is an audience that we have here already, ask for people to start contacting the chairs about wanting to be on specific committees, and or what would you recommend in the interim?
What we would actually recommend is that individuals who are interested simply show up to the first meeting, and that the chair then records it there, create a contact list, which we, again, as the program, will help from an administrative standpoint and move forward that way. And just as sort of a reminder, committees do not need to have a formal membership. It's really just those are their areas, and then it's up to the chair to sort of determine within that committee. So like bylaws are not needed, items, additional items are not needed within the committees. They're really work groups to try to get the information and moving it forward. And so at least from the program standpoint, we really recommend that for individuals who are interested in being on a committee, it's really about participation. And so they show up, help with it, and move forward that way.
And then also on that, you mentioned some kind of administration with setting up the meetings.
Mhm.
But while we're having the meetings, do we have someone to help us with these administration tasks, and or do we just file the minutes and or the notes that we have from the committees to our SharePoint? How would that what is that kind of interaction?
Great question, Desbot. We will, as a program, we will actually assign one of our staff members to the committees, and as they get set up, we will do so that the chair will know in advance.
Okay. So do we make a official public announcement to those who are especially here to definitely contact us? And do they have our contact information? I also have several different emails, and I don't know if there is a preferred one that we should use for anyone to contact myself or anyone else here on the board with their interest in being a part of our committees.
Yeah, again, I would recommend that it just simply be for those individuals who attend the committee meeting as you start it up. And at that point, again, we'll have staff who can then gather that contact information. So each committee then has a list to be able to do that. If someone is not able to attend that meeting, they are welcome to email us at the main email, which is medical.psilocybin@doh.nm.gov. And the reason I would say that is, again, as a reminder, all of the activities of the board members are subject to IPRA, and this way we are able to keep all of that together without it being an issue for you as the board members to be overburdened with trying to track those sort of items. And so that's why we do recommend, if individuals would like to contact on it, to reach out through this, but we do recommend that it be through that first meeting, that individuals show up and attend, and that's where we can actually create those lists for contact for the individual committees.
Got it. And then just again, sorry to go this. So for the public, their best way of being a part of the committees is to wait till one of us is the chairs establishes a time and a meeting that they would like to meet. That link will then go out to the public and be provided on the page. And or if the public is really raring to go and wants to be a part of something, they are free to contact the medical psilocybin DOH email that was just provided in the chat. Is that correct?
Yes, but I would recommend that they attend the committee first, and then if they are not able to attend the meeting, once it is published, then to reach out. Otherwise, quite frankly, we would be overwhelmed and we would not be able to serve you as a board because we would be responding to all of those other items. So what we recommend is that happen once the committee meetings are set up. Individuals who are interested simply attend them. And if they're not able to, at that point, they can reach out and we will forward that information and present it actually during the committee itself.
Okay, great. Thank you for clarifying the protocol for that. Appreciate it.
Also to, I'm sorry, I didn't raise my hand. Also to maybe having that written out and posted to our documents too, that would be helpful.
And my question was just going to be that if people already signed up for the like the newsletter blast that goes out through the DOH site, that if we get our committees up, then that would go out as like an announcement through that mechanism. So that way, if people are ready to sign up for the email blasts, they'll be notified when these committees are going to be meeting too.
Alrighty. So is there any other business? If not, then we have a few minutes for public comment.
And at this point, I will go ahead and I will put the directions for how individuals can unmute once they are unmuted. In the meantime, Kathy will be helping us with calling out the individuals in the order that their hand is raised. If you are interested in providing public comment, please go ahead and raise your hand in Teams. And the way to do that, if you are not sure, is if you are on a computer, you should click and here should have a slide showing it. If on a computer, please click on the hand icon near the top of the team windows. It says raise underneath the icon. If you are on the Teams app on a phone, please press the ellipses, which are the 3 dots in the menu, and then the hand icon will appear and you can select it. And if you are joining through voice only on a phone, please press *5 to raise or lower your hand. And then once you are called upon, you will be able to unmute. And to unmute, please, on the Teams, on a computer or on the phone app, click on the microphone icon, which is the little icon highlighted in yellow on the screen. If you are joining us by telephone and voice only, please press *6 to unmute or mute. I will actually circle through these 2 slides as we go through public comment. Please remember, individuals who are engaging in public comment, you have 3 minutes to provide your comment, and at the 30-second mark, 30 seconds prior to the end, we will give you a warning and let you know. Okay. Kathy, I think we are ready.
We'll go to our first person, James. Please unmute your line. You have 3 minutes.
Testing. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Thank you. My name is James Lasobe, and I'm a pharmaceutical scientist from Arizona, and I've been involved in the Arizona psilocybin research efforts, including testimony to our Department of Health Services and the Psilocybin Research Advisory Council. And it is an honor to learn and be with you guys here today. A major strength that SB 219 does is more than authorize access. I think it really directs the department to collect data, publish annual assessments, and consider rural and tribal access while creating an equity trust or an equity fund and a research fund. This framework really allows us to build a system that is safety-driven and equity-driven from the outset, which is especially important given the ambitious timeline here. My priority in this area is human safety and the prevention of avoidable harm. I personally believe psychedelics are not appropriate for everybody, and the way the program is designed will determine whether they reduce suffering or inadvertently create iatrogenic injury. With this in mind, my main question is, how does the board envision the program's data architecture, especially for long-term outcomes in Indigenous communities? How does the board think of defining a minimum core outcome set with minimum follow-up periods that every participating site will be expected to collect, and not only acutely, but over a 6, 12, or 24-month consideration? A safety-conscious program needs to be seen than a short-term symptom change. It should be able to track durable remission or relapse, suicidality or self-harm, emergent psychosis or mania, or even basic quality of life outcomes. Many of these candidates will also be on SSRIs, SNRIs, mood stabilizers, or other psychoactive substances. If the program is truly safety-driven, tapering plans and co-contaminant medication use and potential polypharmacological interactions need to be visible in the longitudinal data and not treated as a background noise. Within this framework, I'm particularly interested in how Indigenous patients, members of the New Mexico tribes, nations, and pueblos, will be reflected in the data in a way that is both analytically meaningful and respectful to tribal sovereignty and privacy. Will the department and this board consider co-designing metrics, follow-up
You
expectations,
have 30
and
seconds remaining.
thank you, reporting categories within the tribes, Indigenous clinicians, and other traditional healers so that annual assessments can show whether Indigenous patients are accessing care and how their long-term outcome changes and where these barriers will be met. New Mexico has a really cool opportunity to set a national standard for implementing medical psilocybin in a way that is scientifically rigorous, conservatively safe, and generally
Your time is up.
accountable.
Thank you
Thank
for
you
your
very much
comment.
for your time.
Okay, the next person is Denali Wilson. Your line is activated. Please unmute. You have 3 minutes.
Good morning, Board and Department of Health. My name is Denali Wilson. I am the New Mexico Director of Strategic Support for the Healing Advocacy Fund, which is a nonprofit that supports state-regulated access for psychedelic healing. I just want to express deep gratitude for the Board and the work that you've put in today. I'm so grateful to see movement starting on some of these priorities, and especially grateful for the Board's focus on equity and affordability. I wanted to make a quick recommendation, perhaps not necessary or actionable at this moment in the program, but it seems like it may be helpful in the future to create a subcommittee to focus on insurance and healthcare integration specifically. That subcommittee could focus on the pathways for Medicaid and commercial insurance coverage. We know that there are pieces of this care that will not be coverable until there is FDA approval, but as many of you mentioned, so much of this care model is part of this is therapeutic in nature and involves practices that are already covered by insurance, both Medicaid and commercial. But it does and will take thoughtful attention to make sure that those pathways are possible. This subcommittee could also focus on specific issues to New Mexico as a medically integrated model. I'm thinking about the issues that are going to arise for our providers who are also holders of DEA prescriber licenses, questions of professional liability, and other issues that may arise related to the dual licensure nature of much of our practitioners. So that's my recommendation, but grateful for the Board's work today, and especially, again, the focus that we're witnessing on equity and affordability.
Thank you. Next, we go to Shane. Please unmute your line. You have 3 minutes. Shane? Okay, we'll go to the next person. Paul, please unmute your line. You have 3 minutes.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Paul Walton, and I'm with Firefighters for Plant Medicine. Thank everyone who worked on this and made this happen. This is a great opportunity for New Mexico to be leaders in this healing treatment. As a firefighter for Bernalillo County for almost 18 years, I've witnessed and experienced firsthand the emotional and physical tolls that this job can have on individuals. Our work often involves exposure to traumatic events that can lead to several work-related injuries, such as severe depression and PTSD. Our first responders have a higher rate of mental health issues and suicide rates. This treatment can directly impact occurrences of suicide. We recently had a firefighter lose a battle with depression. There's a mental health crisis in our first responders and in our medical community, yet they are often overlooked when it comes to mental health treatment. These work-related injuries often make normal everyday life a struggle for first responders. These struggles not only affect our first responders, but their families, coworkers, and our community. Unfortunately, first responders are often the last to seek help due to cultural stigmas and surrounding mental health. We are the first to help others, but the last to help ourselves. This stigma, along with affordability and a treatment resistance, presents barriers for first responders. Peers for first responders and veterans is also another important aspect to consider in these regulations. In order to treat our first responders, we must reach them and break down these treatment barriers. First responders are not normal mental health patients and need special regulation attention for effective treatment. We need to be able to accommodate first responder patients and comfort levels to have effective treatments for them. Another tool for address treatment barriers could be microdosing. Having a microdosing treatment policy could help address some of these barriers. This could also help with integration and continued support after a therapeutic dose. First responders have to go back to work after these therapeutic treatments and are subject to future trauma. My hope is that the Department of Health and the Advisory Board will look at these barriers for first responders seriously and find a way to work with advisors to make solutions to help our public servants. When our first responders are mentally healthier and happier, their family, coworkers, employers, and the communities directly benefit, making our community safe and healthier. I appreciate you guys working on this and committees and doing all this work. It's
You have 30
fabulous.
seconds.
You guys have made a lot of progress, and I look forward to all this. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Paul. Next we go to Crystal. Crystal, please unmute your line. You have 3 minutes.
Greetings, my name is Crystal. I am the owner of Lady Canna Apothecary. I have been involved in the underground cannabis and psilocybin community since 2017. I am elated for legalized access to indigenous sacred medicine. My priority when it comes to accessible medication is not only removing barriers to these sacred medicines, but I believe it's important to uplift New Mexicans and put a cap on migrating practitioners, cultivators, and facilitators. I believe we need to be conscious of uplifting New Mexicans by creating accessible programs and education so our people may thrive. Those of us in this space felt a direct impact when medical cannabis was legalized and the program allowed for big corporations and outside sources to infiltrate. I also believe it is important to advocate for language to be amended in the current law that allows people to grow psilocybin but not to harvest it. Thank you for considering our input. It's appreciated.
Thank you, Crystal. Okay, next it looks like we have Paul, but I feel like Paul just okay. It looks like he nope. Okay, Paul. Okay, nope. Sorry. Okay, it looks like folks have lowered their hands. If you wish to provide a public comment, please raise your hand. Thank you, Paul, for clarifying. Okay, there are no additional hands raised at this time. Oh, one just came in. Marlena Robbins. Please unmute your line. You have 3 minutes.
Hi, everyone. My name is Marlena Robbins. I'm a doctor of public health candidate at UC Berkeley. I'm Navajo from Windrock, Arizona, and also grew up in Albuquerque, Santa Fe, New Mexico. I, as a previous member on the Colorado Natural Medicine Health Act federally recognized American Tribes and Indigenous Communities Working Group, and I'm here offering a comment in my capacity as a former member of that group. Um, and I would share that the report is out there. I would encourage the board to look at the Colorado Tribal Working Group report. There's a lot of great information in there around how we designed it to address exploitation, misappropriation, cultural appropriation, biopiracy, bioprospecting, engaging with grassroots indigenous organizations that exist in Colorado who are doing conservation work, um, local Native health organizations, urban Native health organizations. And I understand that New Mexico has 23 federally recognized tribes who have all their own languages, government systems. And so I'm encouraging this board and the committee that's going to be formed to address Indigenous communities to engage with tribes early, to be transparent, consistent, to be accountable to the actions and to the plans that are put into place with tribes um, in leadership. And what would it look like for tribes to come together and learn about and respond to the Medical Psilocybin Act? Um, and whether they're for it, they have the infrastructure to implement it, they're against it, it's not their medicine, it's not their way, or they need more education, more information. How is this going to affect them at the community level, at the healthcare level, at the tribal administrative legal level? So just putting that out there. I know it's huge, I know it's big, but I think New Mexico is in a good position. It's an opportunity for New Mexico to move forward with tribal engagement in an ethical way. So thank you all for being here, and I support everyone's work here.
Thank you. Next, we'll go to Senator Martin Hickey. Please unmute your line. Dominic, did you want to do an introduction of the senator?
I just wanted to welcome Senator Hickey and thank you so much for joining today. So please go on ahead with whatever you would like to say. Thank you for joining.
Thank you, Dominic, Chrissy, and those are the names I can see. Larry, all the others for being willing to sit on this board. It's really critical. I was really glad to see that you went through the bylaws this morning. Having had boards and served on boards, it's a very important function to know and understand those as a board member. So thank you for doing that, but mostly thank you for just undertaking this activity. I've been traveling for medical conferences and meetings, and honest to God, people are saying, wow, what's happening in New Mexico around this? It sounds great. And I think literally many other states, and I've been with other state legislators recently, are looking forward to what you all come up with because they think it is so necessary in their state. So thank you for leading the way and doing this, and I wish everyone a wonderful holiday. Thank you.
Happy holidays, Senator.
Thank you, Senator.
Okay, next we'll go to Timothy Scott. Please unmute your line. You have 3 minutes.
Yes, can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes. Well, first off, I just moved to New Mexico probably 2 years ago, and I come from a state where this type of practice isn't even thought of. So I just wanted to say that I appreciate the senator and the board and everybody involved in maybe getting something going as far as this research. And I think that's all I got. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. If you wish to provide public comment, please raise your hand.
Okay, at this time, since we do not see any additional hands raised, we'll conclude the public comment. Just as a note, as I've been putting up on the slides on screen, if you are interested in providing public comment but did not wish to speak during the meeting, you can send written public comment to the program email at medical.psilocybin@tuh.nm.gov, and we will include it in the meeting record. In order to do so, please send the comment by Monday, December 15th at 5 p.m. Thank you, everyone. And Ian, I just wanted to note that in addition to Senator Hickey, Senator Steinborn has also been in the meeting. I'm not sure if he would like to speak as well. Senator, if you would like to speak, go ahead and raise your hand if you don't mind. Okay, Kathy, if you could unmute Senator Steinborn.
Yep, Senator Steinborn, please unmute your line.
Okay, now I'm unmuted, yeah?
Yeah, we can hear you.
All right, yeah, asking a politician to speak, we'll get a guaranteed response. Good morning, everybody. Good work today. It's just great to see it along with Senator Hickey. Senator Hickey was also just a primary co-sponsor of the legislation and a crucial guy. He's also a medical doctor. He also ran health plans. I mean, he's one of our leaders in the New Mexico legislature, really. And he was the author of a bill that created the first bill in the country to eliminate copays from behavioral health doctor's visits and medicine. And so when you do those things and they don't cost you anything, that was because of a law that he passed. So he's just can't say enough about him, and he's very strongly supportive of what we're doing here. So yeah, good work. This is going to be a lot of work, we know, and get our arms around all the data and the science and best practices. And I just wish you well, because there's a lot to do and a lot of details, and we're all in it together. So thank you all for your work as well. Appreciate it, and just look forward to supporting your efforts. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Senator Steinborn.
Thank you, Senator. And Ian, we do not have any additional individuals with their hands raised, so back to you for conclusion of the meeting.
Alrighty. Well, if there is no further business, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Perfect. And with those motion and no objection, we adjourned at 11:11 a.m. on 12/12. Kind of cute.
That is very cool.
Thank you. This is wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.